News has recently broken that one of the best young wide receivers in the entirety of the NFL has officially requested a trade away from his current team. So in this video, I'm going to provide you all with a little insight in my answers as to whether or not the Carolina Panthers should or should not trade for said wide receiver and finally provide Bryce Young with a number one receiver. And we're going to get into all of that right after this.
I'm from the foe. You dig?
Welcome to The Way I See It with Jamario Rashad. This is a Carolina Panthers fan channel. Please do me a favor by hitting the like button and please make sure you subscribe as I am on my road to 3K. Still trying to grow my channel, although it's growing rather slowly. I appreciate each and every one of you all that chose to rock with me and each and every one of you new people that choose to rock with me after this video. So go ahead and like and subscribe. So now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and get to the topic of this video. I'm sure everybody already knows who, although I left it up in the air and didn't name him in the intro of the video, news has been going around all the NFL circles, and I'm pretty sure if you clicked on this video, you already know who we're talking about. We are talking about young star wide receiver, soon to be formally of the Seattle Seahawks, DK Metcalf. He has officially requested a trade away from his team, this coming less than an hour away from other news that they would also be releasing veteran wide receiver and former star Seahawk Tyler Lockett as well. DK Metcalf is the younger guy. He is the star guy at the time. So currently he is the apple of the NFL's eye. And currently I think he is the apple of a lot of Carolina Panthers fans' eyes, including myself. So what I'm going to do is provide you all with a little context as to what would be some of the positives to bringing in a guy like DK as opposed to what could potentially be a few of the negatives. I like to keep it objective. I do not like to just I don't believe in absolutes. There's a little bit of nuance in just about everything, man. So let's first of all go ahead and get to these positives. Now, what exactly would be the biggest positive? Now, everybody knows off gate, without me even having to say anything, that this would absolutely be the first opportunity in his young, only 2 years in career so far, that our quarterback Bryce Young would have an undoubted number one receiver who checks all of the boxes, whether it be speed, size, or big playability. A guy the likes of a DK Metcalf is 100% tailor-made to suit that role, as we've seen other young wide receivers and the management of their team trade or either draft young wide receivers that come in and elevate the game of their star young QB. That is exactly what I expect to see from DK Metcalf, having nearly 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns, and this being pretty much the norm for him over the past couple of years. One thing that is on the good or on the better side of the chances of the Carolina Panthers possibly actually landing him is because he has spent so much time playing under the likes of Pete Carroll. That is the man that was coaching the team when he was drafted to the Seahawks. So that type of coaching, that type of environment, that type of culture within the locker room is something that DK Metcalf has come up in the NFL embracing, and that is the exact type of locker room that our current head coach, who is a disciple of the Seahawks, in our current head coach Dave Canales. He studied under the former head coach for so long. He's implemented so many different things, whether it be the culture, practice habits, and just everything that he instills in the offense does come and admittedly from the likes of a Pete Carroll, as he does like to emulate that. So the transition from DK being in Seattle and coming to a locker room that is trying its best to emulate what was the best of that in Seattle, I think that would be a very easy transition for DK and would be something that would be very good for, just the assimilation to him being an instant impact player into our offense, man. But aside from that, there are several other things that would just be an amazing. This is a hole that we've been trying to fill for so long. The numbers that DK Metcalf put up just last year, we haven't had a single wide receiver aside from DJ Moore doing it one time. It has been over a decade at this point since we've had a wide receiver that was able to put up numbers like DK Metcalf, dating all the way back to a rookie Kelvin Benjamin. But one of the more beneficial things that this would bring to the Carolina Panthers is the opportunity to solely focus on the defense in the draft. Now, I know that a large contingency of the Carolina Panthers fan base already believes that there should be nothing but defense drafted in this draft, and I'm not here to argue that point, but there are other people within the fan base that feel as though if you have the opportunity to draft a game-changing offensive player, specifically a wide receiver right there with that top 10 pick, whether it be Teteroa McMillan or by the grace of God, which we all know isn't going to happen, but we have to at least consider it, a guy like Travis Hunter, we have to keep our options open and say we could consider going best player available as a side of saying, okay, we need to fill this hole. Do we need edge rushers? Do we need help on the line? Absolutely, but we can't just outlaw the possibility of a wide receiver. With the infusion of DK Metcalf, that opinion 1000% changes. You bring in that big body guy, you bring in that size guy, you bring in that outside receiver. So there's no need to draft a Teteroa McMillan. There's no need to try to find supplemental pieces that like in the draft this year. You already have XL, which you drafted last year. You have a diamond in the rough who is actually currently better than Xavier Legette in Jalen Coker, and you still have the bones of Adam Thielen who can still go out there and ball on these young cats any given day. So that gives you 4 solid receivers, and the expectation that they will retain the likes of a David Moore to be that third down potential come in emergency slot guy. That turns this offense into a completely different unit and gives Bryce Young the offense that most resembles the firepower that he had when he was at the absolute apex of college football, when he was at Alabama and had that track team of all those different wide receivers who went on to become first round picks. This will most closely resemble that with the infusion of DK Metcalf coming to the Carolina Panthers, man. So I could go on and on about just how much this would open up and just how many holes this would fill and just how many blemishes this would cover, but I think I've done an adequate enough job of providing you all with a little context as to why I believe that a guy the likes of a DK Metcalf would come in and just be absolutely spectacular for the Carolina Panthers, and most specifically for the development of our young quarterback, Bryce Young. But unfortunately, I do have to talk about what could potentially be the negatives, because we are living in La La Land if we don't assume that there could be things that could go wrong, giving this much money, giving this much draft capital, and bringing somebody to a team that he's never been on. Okay, there's just plenty of things that could potentially go wrong. So in terms of the negatives, when it comes to what what might happen if you bring in a guy like DK Metcalf, one thing that can optically that I can speak to is, as we saw this last season, this 2024 season play out, we saw just how much Bryce Young struggled at the beginning of the year, and fans would see this, and we would have conspiracy theories, and everybody would have their thoughts and opinions on what exactly was going on, but there was never full transparency as to just what exactly was bugging Bryce Young. Now, as the season progressed and the happenings began to get chronicled by whether it be the beat writers or just in things that come out in interviews, one thing that could be surmised by the end of the season, by the time that we saw that tremendous turnaround by Bryce Young, which is kind of hard to say, is that after Deontay Johnson, who is known to be a malcontent, a diva, and I'm assuming to a quiet-natured guy like Bryce Young, maybe a bit of a locker room bully, once a guy like that was removed, we got to see our young quarterback flourish. We got to see him be himself. And my only drawback, or one of the only drawbacks with DK Metcalf, is this isn't just a little guy that might get in your face on the sideline. That's one thing. DK Metcalf is 6'4", damn near 230 pounds, and he's known to be demonstrative and emotional on the sideline when things aren't going his way. Nobody has ever accused him, and I don't think they ever will accuse him, of being as bad as Deontay Johnson. But one thing we can't deny is we've saw Bryce Young try to play or try to coexist within a locker room with a guy that is overly demonstrative, with a guy that does complain a lot, like on the field, off the field, and we've saw what kind of impact that's had on a guy like Bryce Young. So that would be one of my only drawbacks, even though I don't believe that DK Metcalf would be somebody that would come in and intentionally do that. He does have things, and there has been happenings in his time in the league that would suggest that that is a pattern of behavior that he displays that does not mesh well with our quarterback. So that would be something that we would need to be on the lookout for, man. But outside of that, one of the only other things that I could possibly think of would be just how much it would cost to get DK Metcalf. As of right now, there are reports out there saying that there are teams willing to give up up to almost a third round pick, and there's one team that is willing to give up a third round pick for the likes of DK Metcalf. And honestly, I would not be mad if that was my team whatsoever, get to just get a guy the likes of that for a third round pick and a new contract. Cool, but what we have to acknowledge is we do still have a lot of holes on the defense. We do still need more players in the secondary. We definitely need more players on the D-line. We definitely need to upgrade at linebacker. And if we are going to allocate also a third round pick and maybe even more draft compensation to acquire DK Metcalf, and then on top of that, we are going to invest a large amount of draft capital into what it takes to actually get him to the Carolinas, that is going to hold us back or just inhibit our ability to flesh out this roster in other positions or with other players. But that is something you have to weigh the scales on and see, would you rather have DK or would you rather have an allotment of young players that you just hope would one day turn out to be as impactful as DK? That is a decision that the Carolina Panthers will have to make before deciding whether or not they're actually going to make this move, man. So in conclusion, I'm pretty sure you all can surmise what I'm going to say. Absolutely 1000% the Carolina Panthers should trade for Bryce Young. We have saw this example happen year after year with just how impactful a tremendous young on the rise star, potential superstar wide receiver, just how much of an impact that can have on a young developing quarterback. We saw what Stephon Diggs was able to do for CJ Stroud. We saw what he was also able to do for Josh Allen. We saw what Devontae Smith and AJ Brown have done for Jalen Hurts. You see what T. Higgins and Jamar Chase have done for Burrow. It's on and on and on and on and on and on. When you get the infusion of that wide receiver, that can become your young receiver's best friend. Your offense overall makes a jump when you have that guy out there, and then we have a guy that's had multiple back-to-back over 1,000-yard total all-purpose yard seasons in a guy like Chuba Hubbard. You have the threat of that with an ascending and top 15, top half of the league offensive line, and we are able to actually run the ball. That is showing the bones and the makings of a tremendous offense. When you can have the fundamentals down and you can have the pieces in place, that's when Dave Canales gets to go out there and flex his muscles with the play calling. That's when they get to go out there and throw these exotic packages and these trick plays out there. When you can do the basics to a T, and providing a wide receiver that can scare the hell out of a defense and can take the top off of a defense the way that this guy can, and can also make the jump catches. This is, bro, we have a short quarterback who would have a tremendously fast, quick, big, huge wide receiver. It's a match made in heaven, and there's just no reason under the sun, aside from us getting outbid by another team, why DK Metcalf should not be a Carolina Panther, man. So to answer the question, absolutely, hell yes, DK Metcalf needs to be a Carolina Panther, man. So what do you all think about this topic? Would you be willing to do what it takes to bring DK Metcalf to the Carolinas? What exactly would you give up? What's fair? What's too much? I don't care. Just give me your comments and your thoughts on this topic down in the comment section, and I'll do my best to get back to you then. But until next time, I am Jamario Rashad. This is the way I see it, and I'm out. Peace.